I think this staging of the Yeats plays is not a revival of the Yeats plays. I think, if anything, it's the first time that they were really staged as Yeats conceived them.
Yeats wore many masks in his life. He was a poet, obviously, great poet, dramatist, political leader. What makes him a genius, and he once said energy along with talent was part of being a genius, is that he manifested all of these things superbly. And in some ways, the essence, it seems to me, of what the Yeats Festival is about is to try to capture as many of the different masks of Yeats as is possible.
The primary aim of the Yeats Festival is to promote recognition for Yeats's extraordinary work as a dramatist. The first festival presented the Cuchulainn cycle, an heroic journey in 5 episodes. Are Ireland's heroes her natural enemies? Masks of Transformation, the theme of the second Yeats Festival, dealt with the relationship between the siren call of Irish nationalism and the bloody cult of violence. This year's festival deals with love and sexuality, the perpetual war between the sexes, or perhaps between body and soul, hence the title Sacred Mysteries.
One of the most pleasing things about this festival, and the reason why I've supported it now over 3 years, is that the whole kind of perspective of Yeats has been broadened to include all art forms, from pop, rock, academics, women's movements, men movements, choreography, puppets. And I think that Yeats himself would have been really pleased at what this festival and how his work has been represented in the festival and through the festival.
Also, an enormous evolution I have. This is my second visit to Ireland, and
Betty Friedan is one of the world's leading commentators on women's rights. 30 years ago, her book, The Feminine Mystique, identified a vast range of political, social and economic injustices to women.
And a new kind of leadership principle in your president. What's new this time is that the men running the Yeats Foundation seem very interested in a new way in the evolution going on here. And there is something going on with men as well.
And Machado said, I have no roses. All the flowers in my garden are dead.
Robert Bly is a poet and mythologist.
And the wind said,
His
well,
best-selling book, Iron John, is the guiding spirit of the emergent men's movement. In it, he acknowledges the longing of men for meaningful relationships with one another, as well as with women.
And I wept. And I said to myself, what have you done with a garden that was entrusted to you?
Bly openly acknowledges Yeats as his intellectual and spiritual mentor.
Gary Snyder said, the job of the poet is to find out what mythology is useful in his or her generation. Then I look at Yeats and I say, well, Yeats found the mythology that was helpful at the time of the setting up of the Irish state. He found the old wild ones, the intensity of that, he brought it in to help fertilize that ground. Well, so all Michael and I have been doing is to try to find mythology that's helpful at this time, particularly in relation to the lack of self-esteem of men and the lack of knowledge of how initiation of men goes. So to me, there's a very deep connection here between the mythology we teach and what he offered.
Yeats created what you might call total theater, and that requires a total actor. An actor is a combination of an actor, dancer, singer, mime, verse speaker, as well as an actor who can capture all of the conventional techniques of naturalistic and realistic theater. For designers, it's working with visual images that are like pieces of sculpture. What a designer has to do is create the essence of what one is trying to capture emotionally, but try to do it in an imaginative way rather than a literal way. And come back to the actor, the same thing occurs with the actor. Instead of, the actor almost functions like a sculptor or painter looking at him or herself from the outside. So that, for instance, you say to an actor as a director, I want this kind of an image. I want this overall kind of effect. In conventional theater, the actor will always say, I've got to get this by thinking it through the way this character behaves. In a Yeats work, the actor functions as, say, like a designer, because the actor will have to say, okay, you want this kind of an effect? Okay, I'll create this kind of effect, and I will try to find a reason for that.
What man is at the door?
Nobody, Queen.
Some man has come. Some terrifying man. For I have yawned and stretched myself 3 times. Admit him, Captain of the Guard.
He comes.
The way he writes the lines not forces you, but it enables you to pick up a natural rhythm. And Jim, we talked about this a lot with the language, when you'd have like T's, and I'm trying to think of any of the lines.
That's right, hard consonants.
Hard consonants, short lines.
The grounded lines.
Yeah.
That language, Sarah Jane,
Yeah.
that form can be something that you hide behind.
Oh, absolutely,
You
but
know?
if you hide behind it,
How do you-
it becomes empty
That's-
form and becomes boring.
We found pictures of Aborigines, of people from New Guinea and Bali, places like that.
The hero of Bly's book, Iron John, is the same figure as the wild man of this year's A Full Moon in March. Deified as Dionysius and Shiva, he exists throughout the world as a symbol of masculine passion.
My memory, too, is gone, because great solitudes have driven me. But when I look into a stream, the face that trembles upon the surface makes me think my origin more foul than rag or flesh.
The old Kabbalistic tree of life has many gods up there. It shows the sun here, and then the moon here, and then the earth here. So Yeats began with the sun, that tremendous sun energy, radiant intellectual energy. By the time you get to full moon in March, he's moved down to the moon. He's on his way to the earth. That movement down toward Crazy Jane is a movement to the earth. It's what women have asked for, that men come down closer to the earth.
I permit the song.
Kingdom and lady, if I sing the best, but who decides?
I and my heart decide. We say that song is best that moves us most. No song has moved us yet.
You must be one at a full moon in March, those beggars say. That moon has come, yet I am here alone.
No other man has come.
The moon is full.
Remember through what perils you have come, that I am crueler than solitude, forest, or beast. Some I have killed, maimed, because their singing put me in a rage, and some because they came at all. Men hold that women's beauty is a kindly thing, but they that call me cruel speak the truth. Cruel as the winter of virginity.
He is showing the torture of actually being a woman, and then because there is this mysterious but part of the human condition, which is our sexuality and our in need for each other. For most, it is woman and man. That the torturing of that, where you have the polarization, split off of the personality, masculine and feminine, where you have the polarization between sacred mystery and profane, bodily parts. I mean, for Yeats, there was only this faint, yearning dream of a possible integration.
But for a reason that I cannot guess, I would not harm you. Go! Before I change. Why do you stand, your head upon your breast?
My mind is running on our marriage night.
I think the interest in Yeats has to generate from, in my experience of Yeats, comes from the ideas. There were a whole set of ideas about theatre, how it was to be performed. The fact is that Yeats questioned actually how theatre is performed. That is precisely what distinguished him from others writing at the same time. Then the context of his work, he went outside the particularly Irish content for his work. He went to other cultures.
This image of the heads on the poles is a classic one, and it appears in Russia. It appears in American Indian tradition, South American tradition, and the poles are around a sacred space in the center of the forest, which in fact is the space of the Kaliak, the space of the old hag. And around it are always 12 poles, and a head on each one except the last. And of course the last one's waiting for your head. And the issue is, can you get through it without completely losing your head? And so now Yeats takes it in the full moon, and it becomes a completely wild dance.
There is a great debate about Yeats as a writer for the theatre. I think the only possible way to further that debate, to continue that debate in any meaningful way, is in fact to stage his works. So I see the Abbey's productions of his plays as not being just out of a sense of an obligation to somebody who was so much part of the spirit of this organisation, but also as a furtherance of that debate. Finally, the answers about Yeats's importance as a writer for the theatre can only be answered by productions of his plays.
If we had had somebody like James Flannery, in fact, if we'd had James Flannery, a man who sees these plays for what they are, and I'm quoting now Des Rush, the critic, the perennially avant-garde Yeats, if we'd seen him for what he was, instead of becoming the laggard company that we're perceived to have become with a lot of truth, we, with that man, I think, might well, maybe not, but we might have blasted our way up through the 20th century.
Yeats is obviously a classical artist, meaning that he's like a great rock in the road. You can't leap over something like that. You can't go around it. You have to actually confront it. You have to deal with it. And what is embedded in that rock, Yeats, are huge values, huge questions that define what a nation is.